rules, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, she signed up. Yeah, she couldn't find the link, so I sent it to her. It's fine.
She got me. There's Donna. Thank you.
This is a little delayed.
Thank you very much.
No, the only thing I think of is that to approve tonight, but.
Okay. 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 Sounds good. Okay, we're ready whenever you are, Brett.
Okay, I'm going to start this meeting. I want to say thank you to everybody that is here in person and online. Hope everybody had a great Memorial Day, and we're going to start the meeting with the flag salute. Amber, could you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes or additions to the agenda?
There are not this evening.
Can I get a motion for the consent, to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That takes us to the superintendent's report.
You want to?
Oh.
Tonight, so. Do you want the microphone from the podium?
No, I'll just come stand at the podium.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Let's do the whole thing. Where's my remote?
I know it's unusual to do a recognition on the second meeting of the month, but we do have a recognition. And you guys can just go in the front like you normally do for recognition, but in appreciation to our district for the outstanding contribution of Paula McCoy as president of the Washington Association of School Business Officials for the 24-25 school year, WASBO has sent this plaque of appreciation for Paula, and I wanted to just take a moment to recognize serving as the president of one of our state associations is a big lift and really speaks to Paula's professionalism that she was selected for that position. So congratulations, Paula, on your award.
Do the thing.
Good job, Paula.
Oh,
Everybody's favorite part.
Okay, and to commemorate your momentous award, you get to present the monthly financial report for the evening.
All right. Looks like it's been more than a month since the last time, but I know it hasn't.
there's just a lot going on. Speaking of a lot going on, enrollment, we have had a lot of enrollment, mostly for the next year, happening. I think our kinder numbers are up to like 175-ish for next year, which is a pretty strong turnout so far. But enrollment for this year, between May and April, I think we pretty much stayed the same. Our average enrollment hasn't really changed due to the no change in the month of April to May. We're still just a hair under budget for the year. We did find out that our audit report is actually being released on May 29th. So I have the date. And I think we're going to be doing a press release on that. And we are expecting another clean audit this year. So clean audits, we've had a couple audits going on. So another clean year for the district. And as a reminder, they did audit the district's financial statements, and then they did a couple other audits on grants and accountability. So compliance with board policies and procedures and our requirements. Quick update on the 24-25 budget. This goes through the month of April. We are experiencing a higher turnout in our property tax revenues this year for the first half of the 2025 collection cycle than what we budgeted. This is a little bit unusual. It could be tied to many factors. But our 2025 first half property taxes are coming in stronger than they typically do. This will be offset in the fall of next year, so that we'll see a little bit lower collections as a result of the higher collections in the spring this year. So that's impacting our 24-25 budget. So our revenues for 24-25 are expected to come in over budget. Some of that's attributed to the property tax revenue, but we've also had other revenues come in stronger than budget. I've named a couple of those in the past presentations. Community ed, our interest earnings are higher due to the economy, which is impacting a few different things. We've had higher special ed revenues. We also are getting, turns out as a result of the legislative session, a one-time funding for MSOC this 24-25 budget year, which will come in at the end of this June, I believe. So that is, and then higher safety net funding than is typical for the school district. Those factors are attributing to higher local or higher overall state revenues and other revenues for the district. Our expenses, as we followed along over the past year, have been coming in under budget. That has been driven off of not filling positions as they occur, vacancies, and that's been intentional on the part of the district to try to curtail our spending and also lower costs in other areas of the budget. So intentional on the part of the district to try to save and preserve our funding. And that is coming in clutch because we have some unexpected expenditures, which we will talk about when we get to the tail end of this presentation when it comes to capital. We had some things pop up. We'll call it the rainy day, quite literally. The deferred maintenance. So going into our enrollment, over the past year, we've kept pretty stable for our enrollments throughout the year, which is good for us for funding. Looking at our overall revenue, we've been pretty close to our budget. We did have a higher fluctuation in October for our property tax as well. But we're going to, when we get to April, you'll see another big spike in property tax for that spring collections when we get to April's report. Expenditures, looking at budget to actual and compared to last year, you're going to see that intentional spending below budget, and that's due to not filling positions and intentional spending below budget to try to preserve our funding. Cash flow, fund balance, because of our higher than budgeted revenues and intentional spending, we are higher than our budgeted fund balance, which is going to come in clutch because we have some unanticipated expenditures that we need to tap that rainy day fund for. MSOCs or our non-payroll expenses, the last couple of months have been a little bit lower than budget. That's going to be made up for in the month of May because we have a lot of curriculum and technology purchases that we'll start to see those expenses hitting in the latter part of the year. Payroll and benefits are, for the month of March, were pretty consistent with prior months. April and May will be a little bit higher due to subs costs, and I anticipate we'll probably see higher than normal sub costs in June. We do have a higher number of staff on leave these last couple of months of the fiscal year. So I do think that those sub costs will be a little bit higher in the last part of the school year. All right, let's talk rainy day. It's raining at 4. So we have talked the last couple board presentations about some maintenance projects that have popped up. We were fortunate to have a consultant come out to assist us in helping to evaluate some of our building facilities. And Dr. Rodriguez shared in the past several board reports about the results of those reviews, and shared the lovely pictures of the trees growing on our roofs and the holes and all the things, right? And then we shared some of the price tags that were associated with repairing and the colorful pictures of the failed status, the nearly failed status, the almost failed status, and the green for the good. And let's just say there was not a lot of green on the report. So we have a need to replace roofs on 2 of the facilities, and they need it before the levy needs to come in. And so fortunately, because of the district's revenue and intentional underspending, we do have some capacity in this year's budget to front fund that. And one of the board action items later tonight is the funding that's going to be necessary to make those projects happen this summer. And that is the resolution that's on the board meeting for later tonight. So I want to take the board a little bit down history lane, talking about our building maintenance reserve fund that we established back in 2016. So in 2016, the board, in its infinite wisdom, said we need to have a maintenance reserve fund because things are going to happen. These buildings are expensive, and we need to have money set aside when these rainy day things happen. And we did that. We have currently $1.5 million sitting in the capital projects fund for rainy days for these large repairs. Looking at the cost of the repairs for the 2 we have a Union Ridge Elementary, which was in the very red needs to be replaced immediately category, to get to what we would recommend, which is a 30-year replacement roof for a building that's probably going to need to be around. That is a $2.3 million project that we're recommending for summer. And then to do the first half of the high school, which was also red, needs to be replaced immediately. That's another $1.2 million. So together, that's $3.5 million. We only have 1.5 sitting in the emergency fund, in the capital projects fund. Looking at what else is sitting in the capital projects fund for resources, 19.5 million of that can't be touched because it's impact fees. Impact fees can only be used for new construction tied to growth. We have another $81,000 that could be used. That is basically interest earnings that accumulate on that $1.5 million. So in theory, we've got the 1.5 plus that $81,000 that we could use towards this. So what we're ultimately recommending with that board resolution is to have the board approve the $2.5 million to accomplish these 2 projects and still leave a balance sitting in our rainy day fund, because we know that there's other roofs. We still got to do the other half of the high school, because that's only going to accomplish half the project. And then we still got Southbridge, which was like another 2 point something million. And we don't quite know what our bid is gonna come in on the K3 or K whatever, K4, K5, whatever it ends up being, which we won't know till Tuesday of next week. So we don't want to totally wipe out our rainy day fund. We know that there's gonna be other maintenance projects that are gonna need to happen. So this is kind of like our proposed financial plan for you all as part of our recommendation for the approval of that resolution. To still leave a little bit in the kitty. And with next year's budget that we'll present to the board, we're gonna also have a resolution to approve continuing to fund that maintenance reserve with the intention of, we know that we have to still be building maintenance for the district, if that makes sense. So that is my financial update. Any questions?
I have a question, Paula, and this might be for Dr. Rodriguez or for you. As we look at the capital levy funds coming in that would start in January of next year, I'm making up, and you can confirm this for me if I'm right, that the funds we sort of described as being for roof replacements will be taken up for the new school building because of inflation costs that are much higher than we anticipated, given tariffs and other things that are changing outside of our control. Is that correct? Or what's the thought on that?
I have thoughts, but I'm gonna see if Jenny wants to take that.
Yes, is the short answer. The slightly longer answer is both of the levies that were passed in February run on calendar year. So it starts in January 2026. We won't actually see a penny of that until probably April. And it's split between April and October, which is also what Paula was talking about at the beginning, that we got a higher percentage of the 2025 funds in April, which means we'll get a lower percentage in October. So it's straddling 2 budget years for us. So, and since we put the propositions on the ballot and you approved those back in December, we've done additional work based on code changes that was required in order to get permission for the project. And we are over, already expected to be over what we estimated the cost of the project to be. It's been a really volatile environment with tariffs on again, off again, on again, off again. Changes around environmental policy, things that were in place that then are now being pulled back. And so there's been a lot of, honestly, challenges for everyone involved, including even like city offices and folks who are trying to make sense of all of the executive orders and other changes that have been happening. So we're anxiously awaiting the opening of the bids. And genuinely hoping it comes in under what our estimate was, and also would be really thrilled if it just comes in at the estimate and not over the estimate. So that's going to have some longer term impacts for us as we move forward.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Paula.
Okay, so moving on to some additional updates. Thank you. I've been enjoying sharing some positive things with you, so that's nice to do. Our strategic planning launch, we're off to a great start with our next Ridgefield School District strategic plan. We held 4 sessions between May 13th and May 21st. We had approximately 100 participants total. Included a few students, classified staff members, certificated staff members, administrators, central services staff, as well as parents and community members that came out to participate in one or more of those sessions. And we spent some good time really identifying aspirations of our stakeholders for our district, generating a number of ideas of ways that we could meet those aspirations and identifying personal core values as well as core values we want to see the district really embody and uphold. We went through a prioritization process, so this was really a lot of co-working, co-laboring, collaborating, but also allowed every participant to have individual voice and choice in identifying priorities. And we'll have all of that data for you at the summer board retreat. I know you're so excited. Okay. Also, end of year festivities in full swing. Everyone is holding on for the end of the school year. This is a challenging time for everyone who works in schools, but there are a lot of wonderful, fun things happening. We've got end of year concerts and performances. We had an amazing event at Ridgefield High last week. I think it was last week, senior signing day. We had 23, I believe 23 high school seniors that are moving on to play college athletics. It's like an unheard of number for the size of our school. I think last year there was like 8 or 9. So really wonderful event to celebrate those seniors and where they're going off for their next adventures. We do have senior awards ceremony this Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Lots of fun things happening, including some announcements on different scholarships. So excited to be a part of that. And then of course, want to remind everyone that graduation is Friday, June 6th at 7 p.m. And if you don't have a ticket and you don't want to go watch in the PAC live stream, you can live stream it at home in the comfort of your living room with air conditioning. So just want to remind folks that that is available. Labor management updates. You can see our team here. Just a reminder, we are in a full contract opener. Bargaining's in process. It's been a really positive process so far. There's been a lot of great interest-based discussion. We have had 7 full days of bargaining thus far, and we continue again tomorrow for a couple more days. We're down to 16 contract sections remaining. So we're I think hitting our stride and getting creative to try and find some solutions. Do want to recognize Annabelle, who is here. She's famous in the photo there too. So Annabelle, who is from our WEA administrative office. We also, in the last few weeks, launched a curriculum materials survey. It was open for 2 weeks for staff to provide feedback on preferred professional development, both the manner in which and what the interests were, as well as familiarity and satisfaction with existing materials. And gauge the interest around potential curriculum materials adoptions for next year. We had 123 of our staff that responded with representation at all levels from preschool up to high school. In terms of PD, the preferred format, the most selected choice, and people could pick as many as they wanted to, was job embedded learning during PLT and staff meeting time at over 50%. In-person instruction on non-school days, those are really typically our in-service, our PD days at 43.9%, book study at 35.8%, and tied with that was pull-out training with subs in the classroom, which, as I've shared before, is not my preferred method, because I really want our most experienced teachers in front of our kids 180 days a year. In terms of top interests, first topics for next year for PD, working with challenging students was the #1. Selected topic. Meeting diverse and divergent needs in the general education classroom was close behind that, followed by social, emotional, behavioral learning. So I think not a surprise that these are really top of mind for our educators. We asked about level of familiarity and comfort with various curriculum materials, and really did this by content and by grade band. And so staff could just answer the ones that were for their grade band. So you're going to see that the response number changes depending on what we're asking based on who utilizes that platform. Particularly important for us to take a look at the new materials that were adopted last year that have been just in their first year of implementation this year. So kindergarten through 3rd grade, as you know, we adopted Wit and Wisdom as our English language arts curriculum materials. And we asked the question, how familiar or comfortable are you? And you can see we have about 10% that feel like I could read the PD. So that's pretty amazing after a year. And over 70% that said, I'm familiar, I know how to do it, I'm in there, I'm working it. And then we've got about 17% somewhat familiar that just, I could use a little more training, and a very small sliver of not familiar and need significant training. So I feel like that is great feedback for us on the professional development that was provided this year. Some was better than others, but I think the dedicated time to this topic was useful for folks. We also asked, how satisfied are you with wit and wisdom? Just wanting to gauge teacher satisfaction with the materials. It is always hard when you go through a curriculum adoption. You make the best decision that you can, but once you live it for a whole year, you often have different feelings. So it is nice to see about a quarter of our staff are very satisfied. About half are somewhat satisfied, and then we have about a quarter that are dissatisfied. We also wanted to ask about.
Can I ask a quick question?
Of course.
You said 38 responses. How many teachers do we have in kinder through third grade that would have, if we had 100% response?
We have 7 in each grade level, 28 at Southridge, and 25 at Union Ridge.
Okay, thank you.
It's about 2/3. Okay, and then 4th and 5th grade also adopted new ELA materials, but a different set through EL education. And again, how familiar or comfortable are you with it? Nobody is feeling very familiar, so that's also good feedback. We have about half feeling like I can do this. We have about 40% saying I'm working it, I'm trying, but I could use a little help, and about 10% saying I need a lot of help still with this materials. 4th and 5th grade, we have 6 at each elementary, so 12, and then there are 11 right now at Sunset Ridge Intermediate. So this is almost every one of those staff members. We did have significantly less vendor training for this as compared to the K-3 Wit and Wisdom. So despite some of the concerns around delivery, it does seem there was more ease and comfort and familiarity when we did more of the training with the vendor. Again, asked how satisfied educators were, 4th and 5th grade. So just shy of 16% very satisfied, 31.6 somewhat. And then you can see 31.6 somewhat dissatisfied. So that's like kind of split. That's a big group in the middle. And 21.1 very dissatisfied. So less satisfaction with this as compared to the K-3 Wit and Wisdom adoption. And then finally, 6th through 8th grade had new math materials and gems this year. How familiar are you? 20% very familiar, could be the PD, 70% familiar, 10%, which represents one person somewhat familiar, seeking some additional training. We did have a really fantastic trainer around these materials. And I know Joe is using this in his classroom. So if you have questions about EdGems, you can direct them to Joe. And satisfaction has been really high. I popped into one of their trainings this year, and the team is really positive about these materials as compared to what we had before. So it's been great to see that. And you can see here in the satisfaction, 8 out of 10 said very satisfied, and with one saying somewhat satisfied, and again, just one saying somewhat dissatisfied. So that one seems to be really successful so far.
There were 10 that responded to that. Was that pretty much everybody, or?
So I think we have.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty darn close. There's like 12 6th grade teachers, but a third of them are, it's my own story problem, Donna. So, yes, okay. Yeah, okay. Elementary math adoption, as you know, was supposed to happen this year. We postponed it a year due to budget constraints. And I hear about elementary math anecdotally quite often from teachers at the elementary level. So I wanted to know, well, how bad is it, I guess, is really what I wanted to know. And so I said, how satisfied are you with those materials? And you can see that 7% said very satisfied, but surprisingly to me, almost 65% said somewhat satisfied. So You can see it's less than a third that are in the dissatisfied category. That doesn't mean we shouldn't explore it, but it did give me some pause around whether we really are ready to move forward on that, given that the ELA and math are often the most challenging adoptions to go through. And there's just a lot of materials, there's a lot to learn and a lot to get familiar with. And so going back to back in implementing English language arts followed by math is a really big lift on teachers. So wanted to kind of gauge, are we ready to do that? Feedback was mixed on interest in pursuing an elementary math adoption for next year. So what's your level of interest? We have less than 1 in 5 that said, so ready to do this, right? So 18%, just shy of 31% saying I'm interested, 43.6 saying I could live with this for another year or two, and 7.3 saying, well, I actually like the materials. So not a ringing endorsement of the materials, but you can see there over half of that pie is like, yeah, we could put this off a little bit. And I don't have this definitively, but I suspect some of it is we're still learning the ELA materials at the elementary level, and this would be a lot to ask. So we also asked a few questions about science, because I also hear, not as much, but I hear sometimes about science at the elementary as well as social studies. We have a very small group of elementary teachers who have been piloting Open SciEd this year. It's a new potential science curriculum for us to take a look at. The teachers in the pilot have been really positive about the materials. It's Open SciEd because it's open source. So there's a lot available at no cost. There are, of course, teacher's guides and then both consumable and non-consumable kits that are necessary to do all of the hands-on activities that you would want students to do in science. Feedback on the current science materials really indicated a lot of dissatisfaction. So just as you think about the math question and then in comparison to science, we have over half saying I'm really dissatisfied with our current science materials. Another almost 32% somewhat dissatisfied. So that's a pretty tremendous amount of staff at the elementary level that are feeling like our science materials are not where they need to be. And then we did also ask about interest in a pilot or adoption process next year, and there was more interest in a science adoption process or pilot than the math adoption. So over 80% said I'd be interested in that, whereas with math it was less than half that were interested in moving forward next year. So our plan at this moment is to run a broader pilot. Next school year, we're going to run it across kindergarten through 5th grade. Eventually, Open SciEd will have, it's designed to have 4 units of study. They are not all completed. It is taking some time for them to roll out. So everything is available for Unit 1, and we anticipate everything will be available for Unit 2 by the start of the year. So we will be purchasing that for all of our kinder through 5th grade teachers, to have those 2 units, including the teacher's guides, the non-consumables, and the consumable kits, with the goal that folks can give us really good feedback next spring around whether this is the direction we want to go or if we want to investigate something different. And then the other, we asked about lots of things, but the other one I wanted to just share with the board and the public was around our social emotional learning materials. So despite strong familiarity, a lot of dissatisfaction with the current SEL materials. And Stacy Regalado, who's our Director of Health and Wellness, and myself have been meeting with the counselors once a month for professional development and our PLT time. And I have heard a lot of things about second steps, most of them not for polite company. So there's a great deal of dissatisfaction around second steps. And at the high school, we found out through these conversations, there's actually no adopted SEL materials. So that's a problem too. So we asked kinder through 8th grade, because that is where we have adopted second steps. How satisfied are you? You can see almost 30% very dissatisfied, almost 38% somewhat dissatisfied. And about a third somewhat satisfied. So 2/3 not really happy with those materials for a variety of reasons. So we did also ask specifically about the degree of interest at all levels preschool through 12th grade to pilot Character Strong as a potential new SEL curriculum. We had almost 80% report interest, I'm interested or I'm super interested. So you can see the blue and the red. Again, it's over 3/4 of the staff saying, yes, please, like anything different would be great. And Character Strong in particular has been of strong interest of some of our staff who have utilized it when they worked in other districts. It's a pretty popular and well-known, and they have strong ties to our state and the Northwest, even though it's used all over the country, which is just another added benefit, I think. So we were able to work with Character Strong. We are paying part of the cost to pilot really at the secondary level, and we were able to get 6 months free access for tier 1 and tier 2 materials for elementary and for preschool for next year. So kudos to Heidi Smith, who is really our curriculum instruction assessment support person and expert, and she wheels and deals with the best of them. So appreciate her getting us access. We're really excited, honestly, at the preschool level. The materials are super fun. At the elementary level, it's really designed as a 10-minute start of the day. Let's set the tone and focus for the day. Can just be added as a part of circle time or carpet time or what have you. So I think it's going to be really an easy resource for staff to use. And then our intermediate, middle, and high school, there'll be different levels of implementation really at every site. We just really are asking staff to try it enough to be able to give us a recommendation next year. And I think we're going to see a high degree of implementation probably at View Ridge Middle School. This was really championed by View Ridge Middle School as a team wanting to move this direction. And then I think we'll probably see the lightest implementation at the high school because they've not had anything like this before. And so again, just hopeful that staff will use it enough to get a sense if they want to move this way in the future. Thrilled to have something that would be consistent across the whole system. We also asked for open-ended feedback. Only 32 people, so it's about 1/4 of the respondents answered on the open-ended feedback survey. So it just gives you a sense about the percentage that felt like they wanted to share that, but really fell into 3 buckets: curriculum adoption, implementation, just really thinking through the adoption process, the training, and the accountability once it's here. There was several comments about specific curriculum area needs, mostly from elementary staff. The call out for science and social studies materials, the depth of professional development around foundational literacy, and really the science of reading for all K-3 staff. We have training that's called Letters. There's a series 1 and a series 2. And one of our instructional coaches is a trained facilitator. So we have been running that training for the last few years, but it's little batch at a time. And it's a very intensive training process that requires a lot of hours on the part of the staff going through it. There was some suggestions around SEL specifically for Character Strong, so we made at least one person happy. And ELC just really wanting appropriate materials and a desire to go and see the currently adopted materials being utilized in another location. So we'll work on getting that set up for them probably in the fall. And the last bucket was around professional development, logistics, and content, just really being sure that we're using our in-service or PD days to get folks up to speed on any new materials that we have adopted, considering content-specific training for teachers, specifically specialists. So I know that that was from an elementary comment as well, and addressing some data science gaps in staff understanding. And then lastly, providing actionable instructional practices aligned to district goals, which I had a little bit of a chuckle because we don't have any right now, but we'll get there. So as we continue the strategic planning work. All right, shifting gears from instruction to really operational side of the house, just deferred maintenance projects, just a reminder of the work that is ongoing and the things that we need to get taken care of this summer. construction updates for you, the D-form process. We did receive approval since our last board meeting, the D8, which allows us to open the bids. So that was received on May 15th, so we're excited about that. The next step is really to actually sign the contract, so that is coming up just right around the corner. We'll be bringing you a recommendation of contractor and a bid at the next board meeting. And then updates again, just around the phases. The gray is we've already gone through that. The design phase, the land use approvals, those are completed. We've submitted all of our construction permits, our other approvals, those are continuing to come in. And then the bid process, as you know, we've had some extensions on that. And so we extended, the final builds are now due next week on June 3rd, which is also timed with the bid opening. And then we have a very short turnaround to vet those to bring a recommendation back to you on the 10th, followed very quickly by mobilization and starting construction. I did want to follow up with you from the last meeting that we had around the bid appeal request that we received. We did investigate some claims of favoritism and no substitution specs as part of the bid process. The substitution requests were all due originally April 30th, and the bids were originally due May 13th with scheduled bid openings on May 15th. We extended all of those deadlines in order to fully investigate the concerns and to review all of the substitution requests. Big thank you to Paula McCoy. She went through every single one of these, and there were a lot. So we did publish an addendum at the last, when we had the last board meeting, that same day, I believe, to extend the timeline. We reopened for substitution requests. They were then due by May 19th. All of the substitution decisions as of this morning were completed. And then our bids again are due next week. We'll have a quick turnaround to review. And then again, that recommendation coming to you on June 10th rather than May 27th, which was the originally scheduled date. Targeted date for contractor mobilization is now June 16th. I don't know that they'll be out there that fast, but we're going to try to push them to do that. So that's been extended. So we've lost about 2 weeks on our timeline. So just really critical that we continue to be on time and on budget as we move forward and actually get moving on the construction. I did want to provide just a summary for you of the review of the substitutions. There were 105 substitution requests received for all different parts of the construction project from a variety of vendors. Out of those, 43 or 41% were approved. So not quite half. In the specific claim that we received, we worked to hire a third-party consultant that was in no way associated with any of the other parties, anyone who was bidding, or anyone who was a part of any design. And they came back with a response that we were able to move forward on that answer for that vendor. So in the case of that vendor, we weren't able to approve the substitution request, but I do firmly believe we did our due diligence to really verify that that was the accurate response. And I believe that takes me to the end of my presentation. Happy to answer any other questions that you all have.
I try to ask mine as you go now because I forget. I didn't even know I take great notes, but I think I asked my questions.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rodriguez. Board of Communication, Jake.
Tomorrow is my first new and improved office hours, collaborating with City Councilor Ryan Davis, as I shared at our last meeting. Excited to do this with him. I think it's a great chance to merge the city development with the growth of our district and have the two of us at the table. So citizens, parents, staff can come and talk to us about all things city, all things school district, but I think it'll be an awesome chance for us to maybe drive some more traffic and have some more conversations that relate to both of our organizations. 2 weeks ago, I got the chance to join a Union Ridge second grade field trip, thanks to Krista Stewart, who's here. I joined her classroom as they walked down to Abrams Park and did a salmon fry release. in the creek, which is super great. I got to take my 2.5-year-old. She thought it was the coolest thing. Mrs. Stewart gave her extra fish to release, so it was a hit. One of the cool parts is she shared what it looked like when they went back to the classroom, and each student was to write a first person as to what their journey for their fish's perspective would look like as they go through the creek and go through the evolution of the process. And so just super cool to see some of our youngsters do something really special and be in the outdoors, which is something I'm so grateful for our community. Our Union Ridge students can walk 5 minutes down the road and be at Abrams Park, and it's pretty special. I've shared some notes from the YMCA Columbia Willamette group here for parents in the area. If they're looking for activities for kids, there's 21 different camps from June to mid-August. If you go to YMCA Columbia Willamette, each of those are held at Abrams Park. So if you're looking for things to do for your kiddos, check that out on YMCA Columbia Willamette. And lastly, excited for graduation next week, and congrats to all our seniors. Look forward to seeing many of you there.
Thanks, Jake. Donna.
I don't really have any updates. It was nice to be able to honor you tonight. As always, thank you to Dr. Rodriguez for up to date on the latest and greatest, and I do plan on being at graduation. Yeah, excited for that.
Amanda.
I also wanted to thank Dr. Paula for the presentation today, but also for Dr. Rodriguez and Paula hiring that third party to investigate that claim. I think that really speaks a lot to the district's goals of transparency and integrity, and helps build trust with our community. I was able to attend the exit conference for the audit that we're getting your report on hopefully soon. And all I'll say is that it's like peeking back the curtain, and those financial people just speak a whole different language. And I am not fluent. And I tried my best. Brought up more questions than answers, but I do feel confident that the audit went well, and it was for 2 years ago. So it wasn't anything that's super relevant for right now, anyhow. I was also able to attend the final strategic planning launch meeting, and I drove my son along straight from the 5th grade band concert. And Dr. Baker was really, well, doctor, you're not a doctor. In my mind, you're a doctor. Director Baker was very good at bringing in. There were 2 different students at her table, and she just did a really terrific job of including them and getting their voice and perspective. And I love that we have that opportunity. I love those meetings that we had so many different participants from all over the community, all different walks, and everybody had a way to make their opinions and voice heard. And I really appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to seeing where we go with all this information and who joins us on that journey. Let's see. The Union Ridge Culture Parade is next Tuesday, and that's one of my most favorite events of the year. It's kind of like a mini 4th of July, only with just the school, and community members tend to line the route, and it's just, if you haven't been, you really make the time. I think it's 10 a.m. And it starts at the school and kind of goes in a little bit. Let's see. Just congratulations to all our seniors. I don't think we'll see you before graduation. So it's exciting that we have so many kids doing so many awesome things.
Amber.
Thank you. I also got to participate in some salmon releasing, different 2nd grade classes. Went straight from my last coffee talk of the school year to that, and they waited for me to get there, which was so lovely for one particular 2nd grader who was very nervous that I wouldn't get to see it. So that was really awesome. And just being a parent in the district, the way salmon, at least at the elementary level, has been like a through line through all kinds of different ages has been really cool to see, and just a beautiful way to get kids excited about learning about the area we live in. And my second grader in particular has taught me quite a bit about the stages of famine. So that's been really great. I remember one question, and it just occurs to me too. I have had the opportunity in the sample size of one for each of those curriculum pieces to hear quite a bit of student feedback on those curriculum pieces. And I know you often survey families after staff, or do staff first and then families, but I will just say out loud, it occurs to me that it would be interesting, lovely to hear from students about how it has been to be learning those materials. I learned all about how the West was settled and all kinds, I mean, just amazing report backs from students and math curriculum fans too out there. So thank you to the educators who are here for all the work you're doing to implement those. At least in my sample size of 2, has made a really positive experience this last year with both of those. Shout out to our band teacher, Mrs. Bloom. She just does a phenomenal job helping students develop as musicians. I got to listen to the 6th grade band concert again recently. And it has gotten so much more complicated than Hot Cross Buns 2 years ago. And it is amazing, really, to see what these students have accomplished under her direction and support. So that was really wonderful. And I was able to participate in the National Honor Society induction ceremony a couple weekends ago. That was also really great to be a part of, and had a chance this year to kind of be alongside some of their activities, the multicultural night that they hosted at the high school, and their unified prom that they launched this last year. So it was cool to see some of those students again inducting the new members. And I know many of us were able to be part of the interview process as well. And lastly, strategic planning. Dr. Rodriguez, it was a very engaging, facilitated process, and I enjoyed myself as a participant and loved that I was the winner and got 2 students at my table. That made it even more fun. But one of my observations from the night that I attended, I saw a number of people who came from the community that I know have had very different kinds of relationships and experiences with the district over the years. And I was really happy to see those individuals all in the room together. So I felt proud to be a part of a process that people felt that they would take their time in the evening to come and participate in. So thank you for leading that. I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Amber. First thing about going last is you're gonna echo a lot of things. But I do have to say, Dr. Rodriguez and your team put on a really fun environment for the strategic plan. I think for the people that did go and participate, it was well worth the time. It was well ran. It was fun to get engaged and be working with, like Amber said, I mean, there's all different types of people sitting around the table, all with the same working for the same common goal. And that's what a vision of our school is going to be in the future. And the only way to really make a difference is by getting involved and putting in that time, putting your voice in when it matters. And it matters right now while we're developing the plan. So thank you. It was well worth the time. Second is I have a sophomore, and sophomore is the year that they do the testing. And this is my last child. This is the first time I've gotten really asking questions regarding the testing and what it's like for a student to go through the testing. And because I'm trying to wrap my head around our scores. And what I found out is that these kids, maybe they're put into a little bit of a situation where they don't feel like they can succeed. And so then they give up, and then our test scores are, they feel like if they don't know they're failing already. And so then they just don't care. And then they just move through the process and our test results come back probably worse than what they actually should be. I don't know how to fix that yet, but I do know that we're going to start flipping stones to try to figure that out because I don't think it's necessarily a good representation of our students for one, our teachers for two, our community for three. This isn't going to be an easy fix, but I do think that my eyes are open, that we got to look at, you know, how can we be more successful for everybody that's involved. It just seemed very, for my daughter, frustrating for her. And that was disappointing because then test results come out and the community makes a judgment. I make a judgment, right? Like I feel like we're failing our students, but our students feel like they're failing us, like they don't know. So that bothered me. So we're gonna work on that. I don't know where it's gonna go from here. It might not go anywhere, but I do feel like we need to start kicking rocks and move in a better direction, one way or another. That's all I got. Do we have public comment?
We have one public comment tonight. Our speaker will have 3 minutes and the time will be displayed on the screen. Kellyanna Cole. I think the microphone is still on.
Okay. I'm Kellyanna Cole and I'm here on behalf of the Ridgefield Public School Foundation. We are just wanting to give an update of what we've been up to. So we have 2 scholarships that we approved who we would give them out to. They'll find out on Thursday night. But we're awarding 1 scholarship for $2,500 to a student that's going to attend trade school and another for $2,500 to a student that's going to attend a 4-year university. And then we're awarding $5,000 scholarships to students attending 4-year universities. We can't do any of that if we don't raise money. So we had a fundraiser at Red Robin, which we were all shocked by. It went amazingly. Ended up doing like $3,500. So anyone that came out to support, thank you. Our biggest fundraiser of the year is our golf tournament, and that's coming up on Monday, July 21st. There's still openings for golfers and sponsors and special incentives for RC staff. So if you're interested, you can connect with us on social media, and I'll be the one answering, so you'll know you're talking to me. Next, we have our Raptors game, which is on June 26th. This is a really fun night. My kids, like every year, my 14-year-old, she won't be doing it this year, but a couple of years ago, it was only up until 12 or 11 or something. And she's like, I'm small enough, right? I was like, I know, like, I'm not looking at stash for cash. So we get, I think, like a percentage of the sales. So tell your kids if they're under the age of 11, they can get money. So make sure they're like, they have realistic expectations for it too. Sometimes our 5-year-old cried when he couldn't. Yeah, he was very upset. Even though I was like, I'll give you $1. He's like, nope. Okay. One of the things that we do at Ridgefield Public School Foundation is we award grants to our staff. And we had one this go around. So we awarded $3,600 to purchase wit and wisdom art for our elementary school. So they're big art posters. We really loved that curriculum in our house. Really good feedback from our students that are in 3rd grade. So this is going to be K through 3 at Southridge and at Union Ridge. And then also Krista Stewart, we awarded her $270 to purchase children's biography books for her 2nd grade class. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to old business.
It does indeed. So we have a number of revised board policies. We did first reading at our last board meeting. So beginning with item 8A. Approve revised board policy number 5201, drug-free schools, community and workplace. You've had an opportunity to review the policy, and again, it is to bring it current with current WASDA model policy. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we do recommend approval.
I approve move that we approve, sorry, no, it's been a long day. After a long day, human, that I am. Okay, we'll start again. I move that we approve item 8A as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to item 8B, approving revised board policy number 5280, separation from employment. This has not been recently updated. We did again, we'll take a look at WASDA model policy for updates. This brings the policy current with those updates and aligns to current district practice. Again, we recommend approval of revised board policy 5280.
I move we approve item 8B as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to 8C, approving revised board policy number 6890, State Environmental Policy Act compliance. You have a lengthier background on this one, but we did also bring this for first reading at the last meeting as well. A reminder that the 6000s are really operational financial policies and procedures. And so Paula McCoy, as our Executive Director of Business Services, is making sure we're up to date with everything related to construction, including this policy. So again, we are recommending approval of revised board policy 6890.
I move that we approve item 8C as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And one more, also related to construction, is board policy number 6950, contractor assurances, surety bonds, and insurance. Again, we just want to make sure that this is up to date with the upcoming construction process. This policy was last updated by the board in 2017. And it's just been a very small supplemental policy notation that was added to bring it current with WASDA model policy. Again, recommend approval of revised board policy 6950.
I move that we approve item 8D as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And one more item to vote on this evening is item 9A. This is new business. This is to approve resolution number 2024-2025-015. This would authorize an interfund transfer between the general fund and the capital projects fund for the purpose of the Union Ridge Elementary and Ridgefield High School roofing projects that Paula already discussed as part of her monthly update earlier this evening. As you know, we are seeking to move forward on a 30-year complete replacement roof for Union Ridge, as well as replacement of the roof on the Woods and Metals shop and also the commons area at the high school. We have additional roofing projects to do, but this was the most we could cobble together. It does require the transfer of funds from the general fund to the capital project fund to cover the full expense. We do anticipate both of those being completed prior to next school year beginning. So we are recommending approval of resolution 2024-2025-015, approving a transfer of up to $2.5 million from our general fund to our capital projects fund for these roofing projects.
I move that we approve item 9A as presented.
Any discussion?
Can I just ask one more question on this one? Does this keep us above our fund balance?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just wanted to make sure I asked that out loud instead of assuming.
You know, it's a good question to ask. And we're being really cognizant of our policy around fund balance and ensuring that that's going to be in place. I can tell you that between this transfer and the number of deferred maintenance projects, we do anticipate having a deficit overall for the 24-25 school year, but still being able to start next year above our fund balance amount. So Paula and I are working really hard to make sure that we stay compliant with the policy.
Thank you. And even with the projection you put in, you mentioned around the tax collection difference. Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Now that takes us to executive session, which we do have tonight.
We do. We have need for an executive session to evaluate and review performance of employees under RCW 42.30.1101G. I would recommend we plan for 30 minutes.
I move that we go into executive session for 30 minutes for the stated purpose, returning at 6:34, 6:35, 6:34.
All in favor?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Next to you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Go ahead.
We're gonna extend the executive session for another 15 minutes. We'll be out at 6:50. Thank you.
It's her fault.
We are out of executive session. There was no action taken, and I adjourn the meeting. Thank you.